Chapter 2 Skid Steer Loader Basics. Every model of skid steer loader will be slightly different from the next, so it's important that you can recognize and identify the key features of your particular machine. In this chapter, we will discuss the basic similarities between all models of skid steer loaders, common components, attachments, and safety devices of the skid steer loader, and the importance of the operator's manual. Similarities between models. Although skid steer loaders may vary from model to model, all skid steer loaders have a few common characteristics. Forward and reverse travel is activated by pushing either one or two levers or joysticks forward or backward. The machine skids to turn 360 degrees left or right, and the machine reacts to very little hydraulic pressure from the machine controls. Components. Skid steer loaders also have many components in common with other larger loaders. We will cover the main components of most skid steer loaders now. Lift arms. Lift arms, also known as loader arms, are the part of the machine that pivots to lift materials. Because of their ability to pivot, lift arms are capable of two kinds of lifts: radial and vertical. The difference between the two lifts is that during a radial lift, the bucket travels in an arc away from the skid steer loader as it raises, while during a vertical lift, it travels in a straight line. Tires and tracks. Depending on your machine's model, your skid steer loader may be equipped with either tires or tracks. Generally, the most widely used models are four-wheel drive with independent left and right drive wheels. Battery. Your skid steer loader will be equipped with an industrial battery in the back of the machine's motor compartment. Industrial batteries consist of a jar, terminals, electrolytes, and positive and negative plates. Industrial batteries can also be incredibly hazardous. Industrial battery hazards you should be aware of include hydrogen gas, which is highly explosive, electrical hazards, resulting in potentially severe burns, and highly corrosive sulfuric acid. Hydrostatic pumps and motor. Similar to the transmission in a car, the hydrostatic pumps and motor provide the hydraulic pressure required to not only drive the machine, but also operate the controls. Controls. For novice skid steer operators, the multifunction features on skid steer loader controls can be confusing. Because skid steer loaders react immediately to very little hydraulic pressure, novice operators need to understand the requirements for delicate operation and when to take their hands and feet off the controls. As you become more experienced, the skid steer loader controls will become almost second nature to you. But for now, it's important that you read the operator's manual, listen to your supervisor's instructions, receive training, and request assistance when necessary. All of these things will help you safely complete your job. Machine operating indicators. As part of understanding your machine's controls, you must be familiar with what each button, gauge, and indicator on your control panel does or identifies. The following is a list of potential controls, gauges, and indicators that may be present on your skid steer's control panel. The hydraulic quick attach, which controls the hydraulic cylinders that secure the attachments. The heater control, which heats the operator's cab. The windshield wiper control, which activates the windshield wiper. The high flow, which allows high flow hydraulic pressure to the attachments. The work lights control. The fuel gauge. The battery warning light. The engine temperature warning light. The hydraulic oil temperature warning light. The hour meter, which shows how long the machine has been operating so that you can keep track of service intervals. The glow plug indicator light. The park brake switch, and the key switch. Attachments. Attachments are parts of the machine that attach at the end of the lift arms. These attachments are used to hold and carry material, among other functions. The most common skid steer loader attachments include buckets, forks, and augers. Attachments are specific for each model. Never use attachments that are not approved by the manufacturer. Unapproved attachments will put the skid steer loader out of its parameters and cause damage or a tip over. Depending on your machine's model, the attachments and other implements may be activated using levers, joysticks, or pedals. Ensure you know how your machine operates before activating your attachments. Note that all skid steer models have slightly different ways of changing attachments. Refer to your operator's manual for the safe and correct way to install your equipment. Safety devices. Unlike conventional loaders, the lift arms on skid steer loaders are positioned on either side of the operator, with pivot points behind the operator's shoulders. Because of this design, early skid steer loaders without overhead guards were not safe, as the pivot arms were exposed, creating a crush point. Beginning in the 1980s, manufacturers started to install interlocking devices to prevent injuries from the bucket arms. Nowadays, modern skid steer loaders have even more features installed to protect the operator. These interlocks and safety devices should never be disabled. We will cover some common safety devices now. Lift arm stops. Lift arm stops are safety devices that fit over the lift cylinder and prevent movement. The prevention of movement is particularly important when conducting maintenance because if the hydraulics fail while a mechanic is working under the arms, they will come down and fatally injure the mechanic. Therefore, you should never work on a machine that does not have stops or restraints in place. Operator's cab. As standard safety equipment, all skid steer loaders have an operator's cab that serves as a rollover protective structure, or ROPS, and falling object protective structure, or FOPS. Because the operator's cab is there to protect you, it's important that you never modify the cab by welding, grinding, drilling holes, or adding attachments unless the modifications are engineered. Changes to the cab can take away from its integrity and affect its ability to protect you. Seat bar system. Along with the seat belt, the seat bar keeps the operator in the seat. The seat bar system has a pivoting bar with armrests that the operator controls. When the seat bar is up, the seat bar system will lock the lift and tilt control pedals or levers in neutral. If the seat bar does not work in this manner, do not operate and alert your supervisor immediately. Warning plates and decals. Most skid steer loaders will display similar warning plates and decals that contain information that could save your life. These warning decals may be located on the machine and in the operator's manual. There are 3 different warning levels you may see on your machine's decals. Danger, which means the action or hazard described will result in injury or death. Warning, which means the action or hazard described can result in injury or death. And caution, which means the action or hazard described may cause minor or moderate injury. All warnings must be adhered to in order to avoid damage to the loader and to prevent injury to yourself and other workers in the area. Operator's Manual. All skid steer loaders come with an operator's manual that must be kept with the machine at all times. If you do not have the manufacturer's operator's manual for any reason, get one from your employer or equipment dealer. It is your responsibility to read and understand the information contained within the operator's manual, as well as to follow the manufacturer's recommendations and specifications during operation. The information and safety practices within will not only protect you, but also the co-workers around you. The manual will also cover the basics of operating your skid steer loader and will contain details on controls, gauges, indicators, load capacity, speed range, braking, steering, turning radius, and operating clearances. Remember, you are responsible for reading and understanding the information supplied to ensure you know how your equipment operates. This is crucial because knowing the purpose and function of each of your machine's controls, as well as knowing its operating characteristics, limitations, and capacity, means you will know whether or not your machine is equipped to perform.